Gotta find myself, we say. Gotta find myself, we say. Sometimes we say that to walk out the door for something that we think is holding us bound, holding us back. Gotta find myself, we say. But the author and poet Emily McDowell says finding yourself is not really how it works. You're not a $10 bill in last winter's coat pocket, she says. Also, you are not lost. Your true self is right there, buried under cultural conditioning, buried under other people's opinions, and inaccurate conclusions you drew as a kid that become your beliefs about who you are. Finding yourself is actually returning to yourself. An unlearning, an excavation, a remembering who you were before the world got its hands on you. This Ancestor Sunday marks the start of our month-long look at how we might become a people of memory. We begin today with an ancestral journey through music as people of this beloved community, as people of this Unitarian Universalist faith. Great Indian music teacher Sri Chinmoy teaches us music in its purest sense is religion, and religion in its purest sense is music. Music and religion are both for the seekers, for the truth seekers. The source of true music and the source of true religion will always remain the same, and that source is a cry, a birthless and deathless cry, an eternal and universal hunger. It is this cry, this hunger for truth and meaning, a yearning to remember and reconnect that brings us together again and again to be born and reborn. Music and religion are inextricably intertwined as music seeks to connect us with our truest selves and the truth and the meaning that surrounds us at all times and with one another in this quest. Religion done well seeks the same. In every religious community, its music is an expression of its teachings. It's hymnal, a theological, social, and philosophical snapshot of a religious movement at a particular moment in history. This is true for all traditions, but it is especially true for Unitarian Universalism, because here we respect the texts of many different traditions and many faiths, but we hold no one of them central to our beliefs. No one document do we offer as a profession or a confession. We do not consider any one set of scriptures more sacred than another. And that includes not only the scriptures of the major religions, but that includes the great philosophers and poetry. That includes art. In Unitarian Universalism, then, our one document that most you use, are using in most congregations and most assemblies, and in fact this morning, all around the world in congregations, is our hymnal. Our hymnal holds our teachings, and our music spreads those teachings. Some people are singing the exact same pieces of music we are singing this morning, even though it's beyond our hearing. The energy of that singing and ours is joined in the universe, reconnecting, which is the meaning of the word religion. Reconnect, religio, same word as ligament, the thing that holds our bodies together. Reconnect, religion. The preface in our gray hymnal, Singing the Living Tradition, says, "We remember the phrase of our predecessors, religion is a present reality and also an inheritance. Or to use a more current expression, a living faith must have both roots and wings. Our hymn book is a place we find both." And so this morning we embark upon our journey of remembering through our musical inheritance with our Unitarian Universalist sources as our guide. We begin with our source of transcendent experience in mystery and wonder. We begin where both musical creation and the religious impulse begin, in mystery, in wonder, in a seeking to transcend and understand. In that which we can sense, but we cannot see. That which we cannot touch, but we can feel.
Where Everything is Music, by Jalaluddin Rumi, adapted. We have fallen into a place where everything is music. The strumming and the flute notes rise into the atmosphere, and even if the whole world's harp should burn up, there will still be hidden instruments playing. This singing art is sea foam. Poems reach up like spindrift and the edge of driftwood along the beach wanting. They derive from a slow and powerful root that we can't see. Stop the words now. Open the window in the center of your chest and let the spirits fly in and out.
Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. Together, Spirit draw near. Our rich and ancient musical inheritance from Jewish and Christian teaching traverses thousands of years of oral and written tradition. How odd, then, that we seem to know so little of its origins. How diminished, then, our understanding for this lack. How all the more inappropriate, then, is our Unitarian Universalist penchant for altering texts to fit our own perceived theological evolutions. Take, for instance, the classic Christian hymn, Amazing Grace. We inherit this from more than one branch of our theological tree. A lot of us in this room grew up with this hymn, and then we learned it anew in the midst of the civil rights movement in the middle of the last century. Some of you are young enough to remember it most from Aretha. Or maybe some of you remember when President Obama sang it at the memorial for the massacre at Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, South Carolina in June of 2015. But perhaps you don't know its story. Sometime in the year 1772 of the current era, an English slave trader named John Newton had a near-death experience when the slave ship he was commanding nearly sank in a violent storm. When he survived that storm, while many enslaved men, women, and children on that ship did not, he was prompted to convert to Christianity. And eventually, nearly a decade later, become an ardent abolitionist. Just like today, it took him a while to wake up. Let us hold this story in our hearts, receive this song anew as we sing a few verses together. And no, even though there is an asterisk in our hymnal which gives us permission to change the word wretch to something more palatable for our colonized sensibilities, we will not. The composer of this hymn felt himself a wretch when he woke up to the realities of his complicity and his profit at the expense of human lives. This hymn is his confession. So who are we who still profit by the systems of white supremacy to speak otherwise? Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already gone. 'Twas grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. Amen. This morning, we have set an altar in our midst to remember those who came before us, those whose care and courage we inherit, whose memories we cherish. Some have placed photos and mementos here already. If you have not, and wish to remember someone here this morning, there is paper here and there are pencils. You may please come forward as we listen to music. Set their name upon the paper for this purpose and leave it here to be honored in memory this morning. The names you leave here will be handled in a sacred way upon my altar in my home. As we do this together, we will take into our hearts an ancient lament of our Jewish ancestors. Keep in our prayers the lives of our Jewish siblings and those who still suffer at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. The text for Eli Eli will appear on the screen. You may sing if you wish, or simply take them into your heart in this time of remembrance. rising of the sun and its going down, in the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, in the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, in the blueness of the sky and the warmth of the summer, in the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, the beginning of the year and when it ends, when we are weary and in need of strength, when we are lost and sick at heart, when we have joys we yearn to share. So long as we live, they too shall live. They are now a part of us as we remember them. This meta-meditation, this chant, this healing way in music is given to us from our source in world religions. These revive in us our ancient practices of drum and dance, of rhythm and reverence, of another voice in contemplative singing, as we just shared together. These reorient us within, a place where our next source also originates. Our humanist teachings lead us to remember both our own inner sources and truth and meaning, and our relationship with human family all around us. Nowhere is this better sung than in one of our favorite Grey hymnal pieces, We Would Be One. It's number 318 in our Grey hymnal. We'll sing the first verse. We would be one and living for each other to show to all a new community. But wait, one of the central teachings of our humanist source is spoken in our first principle, our vow to honor the inherent worth and dignity of every person and the common humanity shared and experienced by all of us beyond our own individual selves. It is not enough that we would be one, but also that we recognize our universal bond with our siblings the world over, even those with whom we mightily disagree. And when do we need to remember that most? But now. And so we have a second hymn using the very same tune, which illustrates another thing we do. We set new words to old tunes. That's an ancient oral practice, so that we can focus on the message and not on trying to remember the music. And so in our great hymnal, we can go to a different hymn on a different page, using the same tune to carry this humanist message farther outside our living for one another in new community. We will sing the first verse of This Is My Song. You know the music.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and wide. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. All other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine.
Our humanist teachings lead us to another source. The words and deeds of prophetic people. Our hymnals and our worship services are full of them. Our marches and our acts of social justice are powered by them, never more so than in troubled times, times like these. It was just such a time of grief and horror that one of our most beloved hymns came into being as a folk song. On November 27, 1978, almost 40 years ago to this day, a sea of grieving people moved through the streets of San Francisco's Castro district by candlelight. Harvey Milk, the first openly gay man elected to public office in the United States, and Mayor John Moscone had just been assassinated by former Supervisor Dan White, who said Harvey Milk's election represented San Francisco's embrace of corruption and deviance. Nearby there stood a well-known protest singer named Holly Near. She captured both the grief and the resolve of that moment, and of a people who would no longer remain hidden and silent.
We are a gentle and free people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a gentle and free people, and we are singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing for our lives.
One of the things that's been commented on about that night in San Francisco is the verse, "We are gay and straight together." For many of the people in that crowd gathered to grieve, it was the first time any of them had said the word gay about themselves in public. And part of the power of this song is that constant affirmation. We add verses as we go. That's the folk tradition. We add verses as we learn. But that night in San Francisco, 1970, some of those people uttered the words, "I am gay," for the very first time as an affirmation, remembering who they are. What more prophetic people are there than those who remind us generation upon generation upon generation where we truly come from, the all-encompassing wisdom we find in the source we call earth-centered teaching. Those who keep our feet in the dirt and our heads toward the sky, who call us back to our mother again and again, who ask us to walk barefoot through this world, upon this earth that we knew we were part of before the world got hold of us. Those who can see who we are, and when we are lost, and sing us back home.
A friend is someone who knows your song and sings it to you when you have forgotten it. Those who love you are not fooled by mistakes you've made or dark images you hold about yourself. They remember your beauty when you feel ugly, your wholeness when you're broken, your innocence when you feel guilty, and your purpose when you're confused. Life will remind you when you're in tune with yourself and when you're not. In the end, we shall all recognize our song and sing it well. You may feel a little wobbly at the moment, but so have all the great singers. Just keep singing, and you will find your way home.
This is a particularly beloved one here. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing together.